A significant storm system is about to hit the United States, and this is going to cause a bunch of different problems, including the risk for severe weather, which includes damaging winds, large hail, and a few tornadoes. There will also be heavy snowfall in areas like the Midwest and back into the Northeast. And behind all of this, our weather pattern will be extremely different, with much warmer weather, drier weather, but that will eventually lead to some big severe weather events in April. So in today's forecast, we are going to break down exactly what you need to know about the weather that'll be impacting the United States over the next 7 to 10 days. And we'll begin with what's happening across the country today. And once again, things are relatively quiet for most of the country, but that'll change as we go into tonight and as well as tomorrow, because we do have a big storm system that is right now moving across the Rockies, and this will move into the northern plains as we go into tonight. It's going to be quite the weird storm system, very different from anything that we've dealt with this year, where the low pressure center is going to be way back up in the northern plains, and it's also going to be producing snow very far off to the north, while we'll be having some showers, some heavy rain across areas like the Central Plains and back into the Ohio Valley, and then eventually a severe weather setup will take place from Kentucky all the way back over into Texas. But again, it's a little bit of a weird setup that I'm going to show you here in a second, but our jet stream is very far off to the north, and this storm system will struggle to produce severe weather for many different reasons, but there is definitely a risk for at least some damaging winds, hail, and tornadoes. Not nearly as widespread, though, of an event of severe weather. So this storm system that is going to be impacting the United States this weekend will be very different from the other storm systems that we've had all year long. And one of the biggest reasons why is because our jet stream is going to be lifted very far off to the north with a low pressure system that is coming actually from an atmospheric river event that has been happening in the Pacific Ocean. Now, this is very far off to the north, and a reason why this is important is because it's not really going to create as much mixing. And what I mean by that is if we had a low pressure system going over the Rockies like our last couple of big storms have, then we'd be talking about a much more intense low pressure system, and it would also be producing a more robust threat for severe weather. In addition to that, this storm system is not going to really have much of a negative tilt. It'll maybe briefly have a negatively tilted trough, which would actually help to amplify the moisture just a little bit for where the severe weather sets up. Another key detail as well, because how far north this storm system is, our strongest low, mid, and upper level winds are mainly in the Ohio Valley and the Midwest, and we're not expecting severe weather in these areas. So generally speaking, our dynamics here are not very favorable for a severe weather setup, but it is going to be favorable for some snowfall and also a bit of a cold blast in the back side of this trough because of our strong northwesterly flow that'll be coming out of Canada. It won't really bring anything Arctic by any means, but it will bring some nice colder weather as we go into Monday and Tuesday. And then this is where things really get interesting, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this here in just a few minutes. But our weather pattern is going to be entirely different in the last week of March, and the reason why is because a dominant high pressure system will build across the western tier of the United States. Notice where our jet stream is. What this is basically going to do is bring much colder weather and a more active weather pattern to areas like the Northeast. But generally speaking, this high pressure system will be a wall. It'll block big storms from entering the United States, and most of the big potent severe weather events are troughs that go right over the Rockies here from the Pacific Ocean. So we're not really going to have much of that over the next week or so, and so this is going to prevent any sort of major outbreaks from happening. Now, I do think this will let up, though, as we go into next weekend and as well as the following week, and we should eventually start to see some storm systems that actually do come over from the west coast of the United States, which would lead to more significant threats of severe weather. Now, this big wall does not mean we will not see weather. It does not mean we're going to stop seeing storms. It does not mean we're going to stop seeing, these little small events that bring some snow and isolated severe weather, but this will basically block any major outbreaks from happening, I think, for the next week or two, and then things will definitely pick up in activity as we go into early to mid-April. Now let's talk more about the severe weather potential for the next few days. We'll begin with today, which is very interesting, by the way, and you'll see why in a second. We do have a marginal threat of severe weather in place in Missouri, Kansas, and as well as a small sliver of Arkansas and Oklahoma, where there will be some isolated damaging winds and hail tonight. This is mainly after midnight tonight, and these will be mostly elevated storms. However, there is a very low chance for an isolated tornado in a awfully specific area back over near Joplin, Missouri, and also into northwestern Arkansas. I've never seen this small of a tornado risk before, but have ways to receive warnings, have a tornado action plan ready to go if you're in this very small area tonight. But overall, this tornado risk is very low. I'm not really expecting much to happen, but there's a very off chance, basically, that we could see an isolated tornado sometime overnight tonight. Now, tomorrow is a little bit more concerning. We have a larger risk of severe storms stretching from Kentucky back into Texas, there's a slight risk of severe weather in place. And our main concern right now for Sunday will be damaging winds and large hail. This is not expected to be a significant threat, and it'll only be a few hours, but there is also a bit more of an elevated risk for a few tornadoes. It's mainly going to be from Kentucky back into East Texas. Wouldn't be shocked if we did have a small 5% tornado risk get added back over in Louisiana, Mississippi, or even Arkansas. There is a chance that we go live tomorrow. We're going to be keeping a close eye on this. Again, it looks like it's going to be a very low-end type severe weather day with just some isolated scattered severe storms, but it could always uptrend last second, so we're going to be definitely keeping a close eye on this, and if needed, we'll be live, so make sure you are subscribed to the channel. And then by Monday, our risk of severe weather is mainly going towards the Gulf Coast, anywhere from Louisiana back into Georgia, where some isolated damaging winds and another isolated tornado will be possible, but once again, it's a low-end threat for severe weather. Just have ways to receive alerts, and just make sure you're staying weather aware on Monday. So for this weekend, we're going to have a lot of different stuff happening with this storm system. It's going to intensify as we go into late tonight, which will lead to some snow, some freezing rain, and also some showers and thunderstorms tonight, anywhere from the Central Plains back into the Midwest. We'll talk more in detail about the severe weather in just a moment, and as well snowfall accumulation, but notice how the snow really picks up as we go into Sunday afternoon across the upper Midwest, and then we'll be dealing with some showers and thunderstorms back over in the Ohio Valley. Eventually by Sunday evening, that snow is stretching into Michigan, the upper Michigan Peninsula, and still continuing in northern Minnesota, and then storms will start to fire up right around the late afternoon and early evening, anywhere from East Texas back into Kentucky. Eventually, as we go into the overnight hours on Sunday into Monday, that snow is moving into the northeast. Still some showers and thunderstorms out there right along a cold frontal boundary that'll be moving through Louisiana back into North Carolina. And then once we go into Monday morning, that snow is moving into the northeast, where there will be some snow that accumulates up there. It won't really be that significant, but there could be 1 to 3 inches of snow in some areas. And then by the time we go into Tuesday, that snow is really still lingering back over in the northeast, but it won't be much, mainly in upstate New York and also back into northern New England. But generally speaking, we're not expecting anything significant when it comes to accumulation. And for the second and third day of spring, we are starting off with a good amount of snowfall back over in the upper Midwest. Many areas in the upper peninsula of Michigan will pick up 6 to 12 inches of snowfall, but elsewhere in northern Michigan, northern Wisconsin, or northern Minnesota, most of you will pick up in the range of 3 to 6 inches of snowfall. We could even see a little bit of isolated flurry activity, maybe even near Chicago or central or southern Michigan, but not much accumulation is anticipated in those areas. Now talking more about spring weather, we actually do have a tornado risk as we go into late tonight and as well as tomorrow morning. These are your tornado parameter values. They are very, very, very low back over around Joplin, but they are high enough for there to be maybe a brief spin up or tornado back over in southwest Missouri overnight tonight, so don't be caught off guard. As we go into tomorrow, that tornado threat is going to stay, I think, low for almost everybody. There are a couple areas, though, that I'll be keeping a close eye on, and it's going to depend on the evolution of storms tomorrow. But if we end up seeing some more discrete activity, which is very unlikely in Kentucky or Tennessee, the tornado risk could be slightly more elevated, but even then, it's mostly just going to be a brief tornado or two embedded in a line of thunderstorms. And then we're talking about a slightly more better chance, I would say, of maybe a couple storms producing the potential for a tornado back over in central northern Louisiana and western Mississippi tomorrow evening. This is a low chance, but there's a chance that that does happen. Our values are a bit higher. There's a bit more wind shear in this area, but even then, the low-level winds are very weak. So if there are any tornadoes, I don't really think we're going to be talking about strong tornadoes. I think we're talking about the brief and weak variety here across the southeast and as well as in the deep south. And then eventually, as we go into late tomorrow night, that tornado risk will still exist even into central southern Mississippi and southern Louisiana, but the odds of a tornado are very low to near zero, as a line of storms will be pushing through this area and the environment will become a lot less favorable. So here's the timing for the next 48 hours, beginning with what's happening tonight. A few storms will fire up in southwestern Missouri with some isolated hail, wind, and perhaps a brief tornado. As we go into the overnight hours and early tomorrow morning, rain will spread into the lower Midwest and the Ohio Valley before we see some showers and thunderstorms fire off during the mid to late afternoon hours, anywhere from southern Indiana back into western Tennessee, with some gusty winds, small hail being possible. Not really talking about severe weather here, but severe weather will become more of a concern as we go into the really sunset hours. So right around 5 to 8 o'clock, storms will start to move across central Tennessee, northern Alabama, northern Mississippi, and these will be producing some damaging winds and hail, perhaps a brief tornado embedded in this activity. And as we go into the overnight hours, these storms are moving across Alabama and Mississippi. Nothing like what we saw last week, but it will again be something to watch for when it comes to isolated severe weather. It's always a good idea to prepare ahead of time just in case things do get a little bit dicey in your area. Now, further down to the south, I do have a slight bit more concern about tornadoes, mainly in Louisiana and western Mississippi. I do think we're going to see a few different supercells that will try to fire off here. Depending if they can stay organized, could actually lead to a threat of an isolated tornado or two out of that activity. So something to watch for right around and just after sunset in central Louisiana and western Mississippi. But again, the threat here of severe weather is mainly going to be wind and hail, with a low tornado risk during the mid to late evening and into the early overnight hours in Louisiana and Mississippi. Stay weather aware. Again, low chance that we're live tomorrow, so make sure you are subscribed to the channel and click the bell icon so you're notified if we do go live. Now, beyond this weekend, we are expecting the weather to stay mostly quiet throughout the work week. There could be a few different storm systems that bring some rain, maybe even some isolated severe weather, but nothing that's really that concerning. By the time we go into Friday and Saturday, I do think the moisture is going to start to pick up here out of the Gulf, which should lead to more widespread showers and thunderstorms in the southern plains. But again, severe weather not really in the forecast here, even for this weekend. And then we could be dealing with some rain across the Ohio Valley in the northeast. So a large storm system, but again, not really much of a concern here for severe weather. Things change though as we go into early April. I do think we're going to start to see some bigger storm systems. Right now, the GFS model isn't really hinting at anything that looks rather substantial. However, I do think we're going to start to see maybe a severe weather outbreak or two start to take place sometime in the first week or two of April. The European model does show a much larger storm system here right around the tail end of March into early April here in the southern plains. But again, I'm not very confident that we are going to be seeing that yet. Stay tuned. It's a little bit uncertain right now what really happens after this upcoming weekend, but I do think there will be a big storm system on Saturday and Sunday, but I think it's going to be more geared towards heavy rainfall and even some snow and sleet back over in parts of the northern tier of the country, and maybe even some localized flooding from the southern plains back into the Ohio Valley. And so that is it for the weather that's going to be happening over the next 5 to 7 days. Thank you all so much for watching today's video. If you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below. I just want to give you all a heads up that there is a chance that we'll be going back to every other day videos. What that means is I'll be doing video uploads every other day. It is possible that we start doing that again, especially if the weather's quieter, which is a good thing, by the way. I would rather not upload every single day if there's not really much happening. So after today, that is a possibility. We might not have a video tomorrow morning unless the severe weather event upticks back over in the southeast. But keep in mind, there's a chance that we go live tomorrow, so make sure you are subscribed to the channel. And lastly, we do have our 1 million subscriber merch available at shopmaxvelocity.net. This is one of the best ways to support what we do here on this channel. We still have our signed hats available, t-shirts, mugs, stickers, and much more. You can check all of this out at shopmaxvelocity.net or the top link in the description below.